We are united that the Jewish people are a chosen people.
What?
And that eternal covenant to the land of Israel has never been broken.
You cannot be serious!
We're united to speak out in defense of Israel, according to Isaiah 62:1. We are united to financially support Israel, according to St. Paul's writings in Romans 15.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
For the annual Washington, D.C. summit, thousands of passionate pro-Israel Christians unite to celebrate our love for the God of Israel and his people in the land.
Damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around.
There are millions of so-called Christians who not only support the Zionist occupation that calls itself Israel, but are applauding, celebrating, and excited about the destruction of Gaza and the extermination of the Palestinians. These people believe without a doubt that we are in the end times, and the return of Christ is imminent, and nothing is going to stop this, especially not a group of people whom they see as inferior to their precious Jews. They view humans through the lens of Jewry, Jews and non-Jews, also known as Goyim, or the Latin adaptation and non-derogatory term Gentile. Goyim, according to the Jews, are subhuman and therefore not deserving of dignity, respect, or even the right to exist. At best, they can be a servant.
כל הגויים שאתה רואה שיש בעולם, המיליארדים האלה, הם הכל רק בשביל שהיהודים יהיה להם איזה תועלת.
2,800
These zealots will stop at nothing to have their sick fantasy of the end times play out as they believe it in their twisted minds. To the Christian Zionist, the Palestinian, or any other Arab that happens to inhabit the lands they believe belong to the Jews are nothing but an obstacle to their objective of creating the conditions necessary to bring about the return of Christ. They seek to accelerate the end times by any means possible, using mass media to foster political support and direct American foreign policy to align with their twisted biblical eschatology. They believe Palestine rightfully belongs to the Jews, no matter where they are from. They even go as far as to accuse the native inhabitants of Palestine of being colonizers themselves, and thus should return to the Arabian Peninsula, an absolutely absurd idea that only reflects their own behavior. It's nothing but projection. This notion that indigenous people must be removed to allow for another people with no connection to the region other than some vague historical claim that their ancestors once resided in these lands some 2 millennia ago somehow gives them the right to forcefully dispossess the natives of their homes is precisely what Zionism is. It is nothing but ethnic cleansing. Replace one population with another. It is immoral and outright evil, yet these people call themselves Christians and cheer as bombs are dropped and Palestinians are made homeless. Even if it were true, and the ancestors of the non-Levantine Jews did once live in Palestine, it still doesn't give them the right to steal land. That being said, there is no possible way of knowing where anyone's ancestors were 2,000 years ago. Even with DNA testing, the furthest back we can go is perhaps 500 years. So Zionism is nothing but a subjective ideology. Evangelicals actively encourage and even fund programs that assist and encourage Jews to make Aliyah as part of the agenda to fill Palestine with all the Jews of the world, believing that once all or most of the world's Jews are placed in this piece of land, then it's showtime and the process will begin. First, the Al-Aqsa Mosque will be destroyed, allowing for the Third Temple to be rebuilt. Then, a united front of anti-Zionist powers, whom they believe to be Russia, Iran, and possibly Turkey, will launch a huge ground invasion against the fake Jewish state known as Israel, and there will be a major battle in the valley of Armageddon, which was renamed Megiddo in the north of occupied Palestine. 2/3 of the Jews will perish in this battle, but then God will emerge from the clouds and destroy this invading force. Jesus will return, sit on the throne in the Third Temple, and rule directly over the entire world in a new golden age of peace for 1,000 years, in what they believe to be the millennial reign. In short, replace one population with another, then have a devastating war where most of this new population is wiped out. Millions of people must be sacrificed in the name of God. If that's not the epitome of evil, then I don't know what is. Yet, this is exactly what these so-called Christians believe and pray for. They even hold regular sessions where they quite literally pray for this. It is utterly evil. The Christian Zionists are predominantly found in evangelical circles and descend from 17th century reformers in England known as Puritans, who were heavily Judaized and bought into this idea of being chosen. At the time, the Puritans believed they were God's chosen people. The New World was the Promised Land, and the native inhabitants were Amalek, whom they had the right to exterminate according to their subjective interpretation of scriptures. Referring to the Old Testament to justify one's actions is the basis of their false religion. Although some already believed in a Jewish return to the Holy Land, they were more focused on bringing the Jews back into England and other places they'd been absent from in order for them to convert and accept Christ, a prerequisite of the end times. Although mass conversion of the Jews to Christianity is a view held by the Orthodox Church, this idea that man can move God by his own actions to expedite the return of Jesus is not only heretical, but outright satanic. The true church teaches man to be prepared for when the time comes. It certainly does not advocate dedicating one's time into finding ways to hasten the end times. In other words, live your life as normal and strive to be a good person. The Bible is not a crystal ball that can reveal the future in some kind of timeline of events visible to anyone. This is nothing but another attempt to escape this world. As with all Protestant denominations, the landscape constantly changes. These religious fanatics changed like the weather. By the mid-18th century, Puritanism largely died out in favor of new ideas. By the 19th century, Dispensationalism became the new mainline ideology and laid the groundwork for the support base for modern Zionism. This was immensely amplified by the publishing and promotion of the Scofield Bible in 1909 and again in 1917, coinciding with the Balfour Declaration. Christian Zionism flourished mainly in America due to the revolutionary spirit the country was founded on, making it not only a prime breeding ground for such an idea, but the population itself was very susceptible to social engineering because of its shallow roots and lacking of any common principles other than sharing the identity of a colonial resident which had escaped the old world and the moral shackles that kept dangerous ideas from surfacing under the guise of freedom. There are no Puritans today. Instead, we see a cocktail of every denomination one can imagine, each proclaiming to be the true church with the correct interpretation of the Bible. It's a never-ending spiral of new ideas and schisms which ultimately serve Satan in his relentless drive to create chaos, division, and ultimately destruction. Luther thought he could bring the Jews into the church by making the Bible more accommodating and palatable to them. Whether he genuinely cared for the Jews and sincerely wanted them to accept Christ and be saved, or as an attempt to hasten Christ's return, as mentioned earlier, the Jews cannot be reasoned with, and one must never attempt to evangelize them. Leave the church doors open, but no other actions are necessary. Luther's actions caused the opposite to occur. Rather than bringing Jews into the church, it was the Christians that were brought into the synagogue of over the next 500 years, as we see literally millions of evangelicals supporting Zionism, the Jews, and their genocide. Jewish Zionism has existed since the 6th century BC. The Jews simply roped in these so-called Christians into their ideology after the Reformation, which Judaized Christianity, making them nothing but useful idiots. The Jews are able to use these people as a shield to absorb accusations of their atrocities as they blame it on European colonialism. They've adopted Jewish supremacy, which is expressed as white supremacy, a perfect cover for the Jews. White supremacy has no political power. It is simply an attitude that Judaized Christians and even secular white Europeans have fostered. Jewish supremacy rubbed off on Europeans, who only serve as useful idiots to act as decoys for those that oppose Zionism. All anti-Zionist rhetoric is largely directed at white supremacy. Christian Zionists are nothing but delusional, ideologically motivated fanatics who completely ignore logic and reality in favor of their blind, dogmatic beliefs. They are absolutely fixated on eschatology, where nothing, not even basic morality, will get in the way of their vision of the end times and twisted interpretation of messianic prophecy, to the point where they not only accept an outright genocide, but actively encourage and welcome such an atrocity. They are demonically possessed.
Today we lift up to you the state of Israel and Jerusalem, the city of God. We pray for the families who have been shattered by this vicious terrorist attack.
He's full of shit.
Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please consider subscribing. Please also share and leave a like. It's free and it helps the channel. Also, a big thank you to all of you who have very kindly donated. I very much appreciate your generosity, as this channel is demonetized. For one-off donations, it's easy. I accept PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee, or even crypto. Links are in the description. Until next time.